Even as Kenyans continue to come to terms with the very unfortunate developments that unfolded at the Kericho Green Stadium during the Shujaa Day national celebrations on October 20th, 2023, there are some super fascinating political developments that are emerging. Controversial Senator Samson Cherargei and Women's Representative Gladys Boss-Sholay have come out and strongly criticized the Cabinet Secretary in charge of sports, Ababu Namwamba, over the Kericho disaster, where at least 4 people lost their lives and scores of others were injured. What Senator Cherargei is saying and what Gladys Boss-Sholay is saying is that Ababu Namwamba should take full responsibility for those Kenyans injured and those Kenyans who lost their lives. Bila kizungu mingi, they're saying he messed up. Now, this is very interesting. And it is interesting because Cherargei and Sholay are on the same side as Ababu Namwamba. Both of them are in Kenya Kwanza. All of them are in Kenya Kwanza. All of them are in government. And being on the same side, what should have simply happened is that Cherargei should have picked up the phone and called his colleague, Bwana Namwamba, and asked him, hey, what happened at Kericho Stadium? And they should have put their heads together, very easily gotten a way forward. But that is not what happened. And therefore, political analysts, I believe, are not mistaken to read much more in this development than meets the eye. Clearly, what is happening is that Ababu Namwamba is in serious trouble. Okay? And remember, this is not the first time the sports cabinet secretary has come under attack. It isn't. There was the earlier scandal over people traveling, instead of athletes, people traveling with their girlfriends on trips where Kenya was going for serious competition abroad to bring glory to the country. Some people were traveling with their girlfriends, on tickets meant for athletes, and of course enjoying facilities meant for athletes. You'll remember that scandal. Bwana Namwamba came under a lot of attack and a lot of fierce criticism, and he seemed to have survived that. Just managed to survive that. And now this Kericho Stadium tragedy has hit him. Maybe the question you should be asking is, how long will Bwana Ababu survive with this onslaught? Actually, these latest developments remind older Kenyans of similar things which used presidency of Daniel Toroitich arap Moi. Very similar. Indeed, at one time, a whole vice president was brought down, and it all started with something very similar to what is currently unfolding against Bwana Namwamba. Okay? Let me just play you a brief clip from a past video I did that covered that in great detail, and then you can try and compare and see how similar it is to what we're witnessing currently. I'll be back. Now, in most cases, and especially in politics, confrontations is not what you want. You do not want to confront your enemies, because the outcome may not, in fact, in most cases, will not be in your favor. The more desirable tactic, at least the tactic I would use if I was in some people's shoes, was to retreat. Temporarily retreat, regroup, and then come back when your enemies least expect it. Now, it is super fascinating in all past cases where a president has wanted to get rid of their deputy in Kenya. The people involved, the victims, if I can call them that, have always used the confrontation approach. They have all failed to see the huge advantages of a temporary tactical retreat. They have all responded emotionally rather than mentally. And in politics, that is very critical. Because if you respond emotionally in politics, you're done. For starters, chances are very high that you're walking into a trap. You're doing exactly what your opponents wanted you to do. Now let's just go back a bit very quickly into history and see what happened. Jaramogi Ajuma Oginga Odinga resigned on 14th April 1966. And in doing so, he did exactly what his opponents, his political opponents, wanted him to do. He played right into their hands. Reason? He got very emotional about the whole issue. Okay, he had good reason to get emotional. He was the single factor, most important, significant factor, that had handed over the presidency to Jomo Kenyatta. Indeed, the British had told him that they wanted to give Kenya independence, and were prepared to work with him so that he becomes the first president of Kenya. Instead, he launched a campaign for Jomo Kenyatta to be released from detention, and then gave Jomo Kenyatta full support to become president, prime minister first and then president. So, of course, an emotional reaction is justified here. I helped you to become president, and this is how you pay me back. That's human. However, this is politics. It's not personal. And this is what Jaramogi failed to see. It is very interesting just how smart and clever Jaramogi's opponents were. Because they knew that Jaramogi's main think tank was a man called Pio Gama Pinto, a Kenyan gone. Pio Gama Pinto was his main advisor, a very smart guy. Now it is very interesting that before Pio Gama Pinto was assassinated, he was actually warned by his political opponent, a man called Tom Mboya. And Jaramogi Oginga Odinga was even prepared to assist him to flee the country until things cooled down. He even arranged for him to leave Nairobi and to travel to Mombasa. And then from Mombasa, it would be easy for him to leave the country. But then another man called Joseph Murumbi, the second vice president of Kenya, came into the picture. At that time, of course, he was not vice president. He was a cabinet minister in charge of foreign affairs. Murumbi was a very close friend of Pio Gama Pinto. And so when he heard that Pio Gama Pinto had fled the city, he wanted to know why. And he was told there was a plot to kill him. So Murumbi asked, who is trying to kill Pinto? And then he was told, Jomo Kenyatta and his kitchen cabinet. And Murumbi just laughed. He said, that is impossible. I know Jomo Kenyatta very well. He could never, not in 100 years, get involved in a plan to assassinate Pio Gama Pinto. I know Jomo very well. And Murumbi said, get Pinto back to Nairobi, you guys. Get serious. I'm going to even talk to Jomo, and get this thing sorted out. There's nothing like that. And so, Pinto came back to Nairobi, and walked back straight to his assassination and death on 25th February 1965. So with Pinto out of the way, the opponents of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga knew very well that this man was going to react emotionally. And by him reacting emotionally, they were going to finish him politically. Now there's a super fascinating aside that I cannot help sharing here. In life, sons are the ones who are quickest to learn from the mistakes of their fathers. And if you look at the political moves by a man called Raila Odinga, the son of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, you will realize that Raila does not react emotionally when it comes to politics. If he reacted emotionally when it comes to politics, the handshake would never have happened. And that is not even a good example. When NDP, Raila Odinga's NDP, merged with KANU, many people could not believe. Because Moi was responsible for a lot of suffering of Raila Odinga in detention, for political reasons. How was it possible, that somebody who had tortured you in detention, jailed you without trial for very many years, how was it possible that you could actually talk to that man again, let alone form a political union with that person? Anyway, I think I've gotten my point across. In the 80s, another vice president, Dr. Josephat Karanja, who was previously the vice chancellor of the University of Nairobi, found himself in precisely the same position William Ruto found. And again, Bwana Karanja reacted emotionally, especially when they started involving his wife. They got very personal, because Dr. Karanja's wife was a Ugandan. And somebody started implying that it was very dangerous, to have a foreigner as a wife when you're so close to the presidency. Now, in the case of Jaramogi, if he had resisted his emotions, and accepted to be a vice president of Nyanza only, instead of the entire country, and did what I call a tactical retreat, then he'd have confused his opponents. And I believe he would have repositioned himself, for a political counterattack later, even if it was 3 years later, 4 years later, whatever. Instead, he responded emotionally and went into political oblivion for most of his life. Now, had Josephat Karanja used those beautiful brains he had, that he had made so many contributions with, to academia, if he had applied them to his situation, and ignored his emotions, he would at the very least have survived, and build up quite a large political following for himself to actually later run for the presidency. For instance, he would have lobbied to be reassigned, maybe to another ministerial post. Indeed, that's what happened to Kibaki. Kibaki was dropped from the vice presidency and became health cabinet minister, and seemed to be very comfortable. It is instructive that Mwai Kibaki later on ended up being president of Kenya. Now, I know I've played you the clip of a vice president being forced into resignation, or rather past vice presidents in Kenya being forced to resign. But you see, the basic principle is the same. People want you out of a government, whether you're the deputy president or whether you're simply in the cabinet. It is the same thing. And therefore, should we expect in the coming days for a certain group of people, because we know who is targeted, mainly people who are not from the Rift Valley, if you get what I mean, should we expect mass resignations from UDA or the Kenya Kwanza government? Or should we expect strategic, one at a time, resignations? By the way, the same tips we have talked about of survival apply. So, should we expect a resignation very soon of the sports cabinet secretary stepping down, saying enough is enough, I have had enough, I resign? And of course, such a development will not fail to come with its drama. Because I'm sure Bwana Ababu Namwamba will have a lot to tell us about how the government operates under William Ruto. Is that what we should expect? Well, let's wait and see. My epic book, The Ruto Kenyans Will Never Know, is still available. You can see details on your screens right now for only 24.55 Kenya shillings. or $24.55, you'll be able to get your hands on this very sensitive book that will even enable you to predict much more clearly and decisively what is surely going to happen to Ababu Namwamba, because it has happened before. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.